In this lesson, we will discuss the ventilation system. The aircraft has a fully automatic ventilation system for the cockpit and cabin, flight crew rest compartment, FCRC, bulk cargo compartment, avionics bay, in-flight entertainment, IFE, and connectivity center rack, and the pack bays. The cockpit is automatically ventilated with air from the mixer unit. In addition, airflow can be increased locally for windshield defogging, lateral window defogging, and lateral individual ventilation, and for foot ventilation. Windshield defogging can be selected manually using the windshield defog push button on the air panel. Airflow for the side windows or foot area can be adjusted using the lateral vent defog selector or foot vent selector on the onside captain's or first officer's individual vent panel. The temperature of the airflow to the side windows and foot area can be increased using an electric heater controlled by a heater switch on the individual vent panels. In order to avoid bad smells from lavatories and galleys, air extracted from those areas is discharged directly overboard. The system utilizes an isolation valve or an extraction fan depending on the pressurization status of the aircraft. On the ground, or when the differential pressure is less than a specified value, the isolation valve is closed, the extraction fan operates, and air is discharged overboard via the outflow valve. In flight, when the differential pressure is more than a specified value, the extraction fan automatically stops, the isolation valve automatically opens, and the air is discharged directly overboard through the isolation valve and then an air outlet. The air outlet is located on the skin of the aft part of the aircraft. When the ditching push button is selected to on, the isolation valve closes. The avionics ventilation system cools the electrical and electronic equipment in the avionics bay and in the cockpit panels. There are two avionics ventilation circuits, left and right, both of which cool the cockpit panels and the avionics bay. The avionics ventilation system uses blowing fans to supply recirculated air from the cabin, cools the various cockpit panels and electronic equipment with the recirculated air, monitors the airflow and temperature in both avionics ventilation's circuits, and extracts the recirculated air overboard. There are two blowing fans that supply recirculated air from the cabin into the various cockpit panels and electronic equipment. Each avionics ventilation circuit has one fan. Both fans operate automatically when the aircraft is electrically powered. Each ventilation circuit has a backup valve which provides air from the air conditioning mixer unit to cool the avionics system. A backup valve will open if the associated blowing fan fails or the airflow in the ventilation circuit is not sufficient. There are two extraction fans which operate when the aircraft is electrically powered. The fans extract air from the avionics bay and cockpit panels and discharge the air either through the inboard valve or through the overboard valve. When the avionics extract push button is in the auto mode with lights out, the overboard and inboard valves operate automatically. Air is discharged overboard through the overboard valve by the extraction fan or by differential pressure. The overboard valve opens automatically on the ground with the engines not running, or manually in flight in the case of a failure in the avionics ventilation when the avionics extract push button on the vent panel is set to override. When the overboard valve is closed, the inboard valve opens. When the aircraft is in flight, the recirculated air is blown into the bilge area through the inboard valve and then exits through the forward outflow valve. In flight, when the avionics extract push button on the vent panel is set to override, the overboard valve partially opens and air is extracted and discharged through the overboard valve and inboard valve. The inboard valve remains open only if the extract fans are running. An amber fault light illuminated in the avionics extract push button indicates that a low extraction flow is detected in one of the avionics compartments. When the ditching push button is set to on, the overboard valve will close regardless of the avionics extract push button position. The bulk cargo compartment is automatically ventilated. Some air from the cabin flows into the bulk cargo compartment via an inlet isolation valve. An extraction fan then extracts air via an outlet isolation valve and discharges this air overboard through the outflow valve. Heating is possible for the bulk cargo. If the temperature is lower than the minimum air temperature set on the temperature regulator selector, an electrical heater heats the air that flows into the bulk cargo compartment. Note that the bulk cargo temperature control system cannot cool down the temperature. Two isolation valves, one inlet and one outlet, permit the isolation of the bulk cargo compartment. These valves are manually controlled using the bulk isolation valve switch on the cargo air condition panel. The commercial equipment ventilation system provides cooling air to commercial equipment such as the in-flight entertainment center rack and connectivity rack. Ambient air next to the in-flight entertainment rack is drawn through the rack inlet and a filter unit by two extraction fans, which blow the air into the bilge area near the aft outflow valve. This ensures that smoke-contaminated air is not recirculated inside the fuselage. The two extraction fans are mounted in parallel branches, one fan operating and the other one in standby status. A fully automatic ventilation system cools the two pack bays. The pack bay areas are ventilated by external air. In flight, external air flows into each pack bay area through an air inlet located in the forward belly fairing. On the ground, two pneumatically operated blower fans ventilate both pack bay areas using bleed air from any available bleed supply. The bleed air flows through two supply valves and drives both fans. Air is discharged overboard through a grid on each side of the pack bay.